Falcons preseason week 1 is a loss in Miami, but the biggest loss would have to be a pair of injuries Atlanta sustained in the first half, starting with safety DeMarco Hellams. He was carted off the field with an air cast over his ankle. It came only 3 plays into the game on the defensive side of the football. It sucked to see. I mean, it felt like the air was just sucked out of the Falcons defense after that. Hellams has been competing with Richie Grant for that starting safety role. Remember, Hellams started for the last couple of weeks at the end of last year, and it felt like, well, he may not be a traditional starter this season if they went back to Richie Grant, but we were going to see a lot of 3 safety looks. That's something Raheem Morris did a lot of back in LA when he was the DC for the Rams. So now the Falcons are going to hope for good news, although we saw Rondale Moore get carted off with an air cast a few days ago. He has been lost for the season. And then one of the first plays into this game, DeMarco Hellams could potentially be lost for the season. And then fast forward to Braylon Trice towards the end of the first half. He was hobbling off the field, getting help from the trainers. Looked like an ankle injury. I guess lucky he avoided the cart, so a little bit more optimism on him for returning soon. But those are the 2 big names that came down in this game with injuries. DeMarco Hellams, the 7th-round pick out of Alabama last year, and then this year's 3rd-round draft pick out of Washington, Braylon Trice. But I know everyone wants to know 2 things: injury news and Michael Penix. So, Michael Penix went 9 for 16, started the game. Every single starter for the Falcons sat, all 22, on offense and defense, except for Zach Harrison and Arnold Ebiketie, who we'll get to later on. But Penix, 9 for 16, 104 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. The short and sweet version about Michael Penix's performance tonight would be he looked good. Like, I'm not going to make a mountain out of what we saw from Penix, but all in all, Michael Penix was comfortable, looked like himself. He looked like he was in command of the offense, and he looked like he was playing his style of football, right? He was aggressive with the ball. He was a gunslinger. He was whipping it down the field, linking up with Blair for a big play. If you didn't catch the game at all and you want to be told that Michael Penix looked good, I can do that for you. Michael Penix looked good. I'm not going to react to a quarter and a half of football as Michael Penix is a bona fide Pro Bowl quarterback of the future. It's not a very big sample size. He went 9 for 16 with 104 yards, but he definitely looked good while he was on the field, and he was running with all backups. Could you imagine what he would be doing with Drake London, Bijan, and the starting offensive line? I think we'd see much better numbers, and these are still really good numbers. So overall, again, I'm not going to create a mountain out of a hill from a quarter and a half of preseason football in his first NFL game ever, but he's definitely trending the right direction. He's definitely looking like the guy Atlanta found at pick number 8. So, what's your confidence level in Raheem Morris? 1 preseason game in the book. I'm not going to judge him too harshly not even harshly at all for a preseason loss, but did you like what you saw from his return? Again, it's just a preseason, but I do feel like preseasons are important for new head coaches. It's their opportunity to kind of get their fingerprints on this team when it comes to game day and getting guys ready and in the winning habit. Because it's not easy for players to flip a switch with a new coach and a new culture when the regular season rolls around, like it might be for a team that's going with an incumbent head coach and just running back the same team from last year. So confidence level in Raheem Morris, scale it 1 to 10. So Michael Penix, as I said, looked good, looked like the quarterback we saw at Washington, which I was really delighted to see. He still had that kind of gunslinger mentality with him. The other quarterbacks, Nathan Rourke, he filled in after Taylor Heinicke, 3 for 13, 37 yards. Heinicke, 4 for 11 for 11 yards. This is a QB3 battle, and that's not going to really sell a lot of tickets, but we officially have a third-string quarterback battle-off between the veteran Heinicke and Rourke, who was kind of a preseason darling last year for Jacksonville. The difference is one quarterback is like 3 times more expensive than the other. So keep an eye on Nathan Rourke, not just like taking over from Heinicke's job as the quarterback 3, but maybe pushing to get a 53-man roster spot. As for Miami, we kind of sprint through their stats. Skylar Thompson opened up the game as their starter. He went 8 for 19, 95 yards. That one interception was thrown, though, to Kevin King, which was awesome to see. He has not played football in 3 years, and in the first half of his first preseason game, he comes up with a great takeaway. So super stoked for him. That was awesome to see. Chris Blair, he hauled in the big catch for Michael Penix. He also had the fumble, though, so ups and downs from him. Casey Washington, he was a popular target for Penix. He had 3 grabs for 27 yards, but a handful of targets as well. So Washington, with Rondale Moore's departure or absence due to the injury, could be in line for a bigger role. So if you want to sound smart in front of your friends and mention someone beyond Michael Penix, rookie Casey Washington put together a really solid evening, I should say. Now, before we look at the rest of the takeaways I had from this first preseason game, I want to tell everyone watching about our friends over at Game Time. Get started with Game Time today. Get $20 off a Falcons preseason or regular season game when you download the Game Time app and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. First purchase only, terms apply, but download Game Time today. They've got the Game Time guarantee where you can get 110% of the difference if you find tickets in the same section and row for less. So with their flash deals, you're going to find all sorts of great savings on the Game Time app, which is why you got to download Game Time, redeem code CHAT Sports for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, download the Game Time app and use that code Chat Sports for $20 off. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Shout out to Game Time, best place for last-minute tickets at the lowest price guaranteed. So getting back on task here with a little bit more from the Falcons. O.J. Hilaire, just to give him some fame, nearly had an incredible touchdown pass or reception at the end to level the score. I don't think he caught it, but maybe that left foot was still on the ground when he finally had possession. But let's talk about the Falcons' defense for a moment here. We didn't see many starters at all, but we did see Arnold Ebiketie. We saw Zach Harrison. And I didn't really come away very encouraged from what I saw out of them. Like, from what I gathered, Arnold Ebiketie, just the eye test here, his best play was a tackle on a punt coverage. Like, he's going up against backup offensive linemen. He's your number 1 pass rusher this year. He should be feasting. Now, it's just one preseason game, so I'm not going to smack the, freak out button, the panic meter. But, man, I'm reaching for it. Like, don't you think that the number 1 pass rusher in a unit that lost their top 2 pass rushers just from a numbers perspective last year should be putting up some bigger numbers against backup offensive linemen by the Dolphins? Now, I felt like Zach Harrison and Braylon Trice, before Trice got injured, those two are working very well together. But overall, the Falcons defense, I'm not going to make really big opinions about it because it's not the Falcons defense. It's Atlanta's backup defense. Like, you don't have Jesse Bates or A.J. Terrell out there. Those are Caden Ellis. Like, those are really big playmakers that are not on the field. Same goes for, the ground game for Atlanta. They could not get anything going on the ground. I'm not going to freak out at the Falcons' run game because it's not the Falcons' run game. They didn't have one starter on the offensive line. No Bijan, no Tyler Algier. For all I care, that's a different team altogether without those 6-7 players. So when I look at preseason games, I don't really react to groups or units like the ground game, the ground defense. Like, that's a team effort, and it's not the Falcons starting team. So what do we really care if the third stringers aren't performing that well? They won't see the field in September or beyond. Knock on wood. But I do care about individual performances. And I would have hoped to have seen some more production from Ebiketie when he's going up against backup offensive linemen. And he's supposed to be your number 1 pass rusher this year. Just one preseason game. Maybe knock some of the cobwebs out. But I'm definitely going to monitor that in the next 2 games. Now, make sure to subscribe to the channel for the best Falcons coverage on YouTube. No one's got a bigger community than we do here at Falcons Today. We're closing in on 23,000 subscribers. So lock yourself in for the best Falcons content out there. Really appreciate all of our 22,900 plus subscribers. But if you want to get yourself some more content in your life for free, hit the sub button down below. So if you weren't paying attention for the first 10 minutes of the video or so, the Spark Notes. Injuries suck. Helms carted off with a cast on his leg. Braylon Trice helped off. Michael Penix looked good, looked above average, looked the part. What we saw at a quarter and a half, it's not a very, very big sample size. When you don't have your starters out there, you're not going to look like the team you're likely going to play like in September. So I'm not going to read too much into a 20-13 loss. Nathan Rourke will never be leading a fourth quarter drive in the red zone in the regular season. So I'm not concerned about that at all. But I wish I saw a little bit more oomph from some players on defense that will be in for large roles this upcoming season. I'm not going to get into the replacements game if they do lose Trice and or Helms for an extended period of time. But, yeah, they probably will be doing some, window shopping. They have potentially lost 2 key players in 4 days, Rondale Moore and DeMarco Helms for the whole season. There's going to be some level of a search to bring someone in and try and fill that void. But that's the final from Miami, 20-13, Dolphins over the Falcons. I really appreciate everyone who watched the watch party with us for the game. So coming out with us next Saturday, it's a 12 Eastern p.m. game. So if you want to get some more Falcons, content in your life and you want to have a fun way of watching meaningless preseason football, somewhat meaningless, I shouldn't say that out loud, but it's the truth, hit the sub button down below. We'll see everyone next time.